Welcome to the International IMPROVATE Business Conference, a platform for making long-lasting connections, allowing change makers in technology and decision makers in government to make progress through innovation. IMPROVATE is dedicated to finding solutions and sparking collaborations that improve the quality of life for people around the world. Today, the new world of agriculture. We zoom in on southeastern Europe to hear the challenges they're facing in the future of agriculture and how Israeli innovators can help make the changes they need happen. So who are we going to hear from? Well, here with us in the studio is IMPROVATE's founder and chair, Irina Nevzlin. Co-chairing this conference is former Bulgarian President Rosen Plevneliev. Joining us from Jerusalem, the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, Nickolay Mladenov. Also taking part, ministers from Israel and southeastern Europe. Israeli Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Alon Shuster. Bulgarian Minister of Agriculture, Food and Forestry, Desislava Teneva, Executive Director of Bulgaria's State Fund Agriculture, Vasil Grudev, Bulgaria's Economy Minister, Romanian Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Adrian Oros, Theodoros Karoglu, Special Minister for Macedonia and Thrace, Tugomir Majdak, Croatia's State Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, and Foteni Arampatsi, Greek Deputy Minister of Rural Development and Food. And right here in the studio, we'll also be joined by Greek Ambassador Panayotis Saris, head of the Economic Diplomacy Department of the Greek Embassy, Nicholas Christodoulidis, and Konstantinos Daskalopoulos, First Secretary for Economic and Commercial Affairs at the Greek Embassy, plus Dr. Yaroslav Shviet-Karpovich. He's the Scientific and Economic Counselor at the Polish Embassy in Tel Aviv. And of course, we'll be hearing from 7 of Israel's leading agri-tech companies: AgriGo, AgriGreen, GrowFit, Roots, Adama, AgroScout, and Groundwork BioAg, each one breaking down their solutions for a smart future in agriculture. And this is all very practical. So watching along with us, representatives of investment funds from around the world looking to invest in Israeli companies right now. Let's start off right here in the studio. Israel's Minister of Agriculture, Alon Shuster, it's great to have you with us. And Irina Nevzlin, of course, founder and chair of IMPROVATE. From there, I want to dump to Jerusalem. I want to bring into the conversation Nickolay Mladenov. For the past 5 years, he's been the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process. Mr. Mladenov, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So given your role at the United Nations, I imagine you have a lot to say about recent developments between Israel and the Emirates. We, of course, have to ask you about that. So tell us, how do you see these major shifts contributing to economic ties in the region?
I'm truly excited about that. I'm truly excited because it opens up amazing opportunities for cooperation, not just between the Gulf, the UAE, Bahrain, and potentially others in Israel, but also between the Gulf, Israel, and Southeastern Europe. And I'd like to take it in that direction because I think all 3 components of this regional potential relationship have massive amounts of opportunities to offer each other. Israel has a very dynamic high-tech sector. Bulgaria and Romania and other countries in Southeastern Europe are going through a fintech wave, if you wish, in the last couple of years. The UAE also has a very dynamic high-tech sector and capital opportunities. And I would like to urge all of you to look at the opportunities of how to harness the Abraham Accords and cooperation in Southeastern Europe, and really see a wave of agri-tech development that is so necessary everywhere we looked at. President Plevneliev spoke about the potential for the region. That potential is just the beginning. The real potential for Southeast Europe is the massive human capital that people have there, and the great innovation skills that everybody holds, the good relationships and the openness that we have towards each other. And really, I see the opportunities as quite endless. I would really, really encourage you to look at not just Southeast Europe and Israel, but also involve the Gulf more in this relationship. It's an exciting time for everyone.
Indeed, and it's an important reminder that one development, for example, as you're talking about between the Emirates and Israel, doesn't only stay there, it has implications that are actually much larger than that. So if we're to look forward a little bit, I mean, lately there's been a lot of talk about which nation might be next to enter into a peace agreement with Israel. So from your knowledge and familiarity with this region, who do you think we might see next?
Well, that's $1 million question.
Sure.
I think there's a bit of a lull right now because of the U.S. election, and people will wait to consolidate the agreements that have been signed and to make sure that the transport, economic, diplomatic relations are really established and fully functioning. But I would expect this process to continue after the US elections. And I think really when you look at the opportunities, they're just amazing. And they're not just in the economic field, they're in the people-to-people contacts, into universities, into getting to know each other. And really ultimately, in my UN capacity, I must say that they're critical for peace. Peace in the region can only be achieved through dialogue and discussion. It cannot be achieved through disengagement. And I hope that these agreements will really help bring about more peace here for Israelis, for Palestinians, but more broadly for the region as a whole, and will create a really fundamental base for the entire Middle East to kick out of this constant period of crisis that it has been for such a long time, and really harness the opportunities of the future.
Well, I mean, you already mentioned it a little bit. You spoke about the greater picture, but the focus of this conference today is, of course, Southeastern Europe. So how do you envision the potential for cooperation between Israeli technology and that region?
I would say Southeast Europe has a few unique aspects to it. One is not just the physical, but the emotional closeness to Israel. We understand each other. We work very well and easily with each other. That's an important starting point. Secondly, it has a very well-developed agricultural sector across the board. And thirdly, it is an excellent entry point towards the European Union market. Now, also, considering where we are today in the midst of a COVID crisis and a global economic crisis, I think linking up Israeli and Southeastern European startups, particularly in the agricultural sector, in the fintech sector, it will be critically important to dealing with the challenges of the future. And last but not least, and my good friends, President Mladenov and Minister Desitaneva know very well, Bulgaria in particular has a very favorable tax base. And I think that favorable tax base is also extremely important to supporting innovation and moving forward. I remember many years ago when the late President Peres, in one of his many visits to Bulgaria, we spoke extensively about the opportunities to look at bringing our agricultural sectors together in innovative research, in new methods, in technology, etc. I think these are real opportunities that need to be brought about for everyone.
Well, thank you so much to Nickolay Mladenov for the important work that you do and for taking the time to be here with us. As we said, during this time of crisis, when it's, of course, a packed time to join a conference. Thanks so much for weighing in.
Thank you.
As we come to an end here, let me turn it back over to our co-chair, former Bulgarian President Rosen Plevneliev. So after hearing from ministers, diplomats, tech innovators here, give us your sort of closing thoughts on where it all goes from here.
First of all, let me thank you to IMPROVATE team. You guys, you've done a great job. We're very proud of you. Our moderator, Nurit, you were amazing, and we are all grateful to you too. Speaking about Israeli companies that we saw today, we learned a lot from them. We saw the future. We are ready to grab that future. Speaking about, and on behalf of all of the politicians, presidents, deputy ministers, ambassadors, so many people that were with us today, I am extremely grateful that you gave us the opportunity at IMPROVATE to come together. We shared ideas, we shared plans, we shared strategic thinkings and understanding, and we shared the same vision. And on top of that, all those countries we're talking about today, with Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia, and others, all of them are strategic partners of Israel, are friends of Israel with deep-rooted cooperation that goes centuries behind. And all of them love Israel and cooperate in all the fields. And here is the message. This conference, we enjoyed so much, extremely and professionally organized on a world-class event that goes to world-class media, the leading media in Israel, a leading business media in the world are listening to us and are going to see how we come together. But this conference is not just ending. IMPROVATE is a platform to bring business, politicians, everybody who is anybody in the ecosystem together. And this is ahead of us. We had a great conference today. But we do have our plans. Bulgaria, Romania, Greece, Croatia are ready in the next months to host delegations from Israel. Israeli companies will see all the decision makers. They will see the big farmers, the small farmers, the very profitable international giants. They will see the potential. They will see and they will learn. And in a 3 days visit, they will be much more involved into what's going on in this market. And again, talking about Southeast Europe, it's a fast and a very dynamically growing market. It's 20 billion euros per year investments in agriculture. It's $80 billion per year market of itself, and it is growing. And there is no other way to grow but with cooperation with the best. And that's you guys from Israel. Greetings and shalom.
Thanks very much, President Mladenov. A whole lot of potential, as you say, that is ripe and ready to be used and taken forward. Thanks so much for being with us and, of course, co-chairing all of this. And that is it for us from IMPROVATE's international conference, Smart Agri-Tech in Southeastern Europe. Over the last couple of hours, we've heard, of course, from former Bulgarian President Mladenov, UN Special Envoy Nickolay Mladenov, agriculture ministers from Greece to Croatia, Bulgaria, and Israel, all across the region, all of them breaking down what their countries need now for a thriving and sustainable future. But most of all, we got a taste of Israel's leading agri-tech companies, all of them excited to provide tech solutions for this region in its transformation. And that is exactly what IMPROVATE is all about, creating those connections. Thanks for joining us.